stay up past your bedtime. Space is proud to sponsor the Midnight Madness program at the 2011 Toronto International Film Festival. At the witching hour, get your fill of shocking and rocking movies. The Midnight Madness program at the Toronto International Film Festival, September 8th to 18th. Brought to you by Space.
Around Toronto, the Your Next street art. I'm really pleased to be able to introduce you to the director-writer team for Your Next, because we had them here last year in Vanguard for a little film which broke out called A Horrible Way to Die. Writer Simon Barrett was here a number of years ago with a film called Dead Birds. And the interesting thing about this film is last year they were here and they saw Insidious. How many people are here for Insidious? They walked out of that screening and they said, let's make a film for Midnight Madness. So this one was custom tailor-made for you guys. Let's put it together for director Adam Wingard and writer Simon Barrett.
Can I just do the Q&A like looking this way so that I don't have to... So the 7 hits of acid I took this afternoon are kicking in right now. Whoa. Thanks everybody for coming out. This is incredible. We're so excited to be playing the film too. We've been here the last 2 nights and it's been unbelievable, the responses to the last 2 films. I just want you all to know that because of this festival, the screening tonight, I've already set up my next project, which I'm very pleased to tell you about. Yes. Colin and his beautiful fiancée, Kat, have commissioned me to do their wedding video.
Last year with the film that we did in the Vanguard section, Horrible Way to Die, and we came afterwards to see Insidious, and coming after Horrible Way to Die, we were like, oh man, that was so great, people like sat through our entire movie, and then we saw the crowds and the Midnight Madness thing, and I was like, wait a minute, our premiere fucking sucked. we need to do a Midnight Madness movie, like, quick. And it was, I guess, kind of quick, but it doesn't feel that way.
Let me reintroduce to you the director of Your Next, Adam Wingard, and writer and actor Simon Barrett. Yes, the man with the tiger mask. All right, we'd like to bring up your cast.
We got one.
All right, Sean.
That's half.
And
that's almost a pass.
So, yeah, I mean, you guys really whipped this film together really quickly. And I mean, when I saw it, it still wasn't quite finished. But it came from how, I mean...
Well, basically, like, right after Toronto last year, is basically what we said in the introduction. It was one of those things where we wanted to immediately get a movie into midnight, and about, like, the time that we were finishing up A Horrible Way to Die, I was, like, watching the original Scream, and just the opening scene in general. Like, I was just, like, watching that and just thinking how awesome that was and how I wanted to do something more technical-oriented, and a movie. I didn't want to do a movie, you know, any more movies about, like, people being depressed and, like, having, like, drug problems and, like, stuff like that. And so, you know, I told Simon, I was like, why don't we do a home invasion movie? You know, thinking that Simon's going to write something, you know, kind of Strangers-esque, where it's like one person in a house, being afraid. But then, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something smaller, and just focus on like really building suspense. And then Simon writes his script, and there's like all these like scenes of people like at the dinner table, like 10 people like screaming and having to keep up with it. And I was just like, oh god damn it. And Simon's response to always this kind of stuff is, oh, you'll figure it out, you'll figure it out.
I guess I feel like there's been a lot of home invasion movies, and didn't you describe them as like movies in which someone is tied to a chair? Like
every year I see a film which is kind of just a guy tied to a chair, just kind of torture, humiliation throughout it, and I mean there's never any kind of like interesting characters, or it's right away people who you kind of want to die anyways.
One thing that's kind of like, that maybe people don't know about how we work is when Adam edits, I stay completely out of the editing room until he has a cut that he's ready to show me, so I can like actually experience the film and kind of enjoy it a little bit, because by that time I'm usually pretty like close to nervous breakdown. And similarly, like when I write, I don't show Adam any pages until I have a complete script. So he kept being kind of like, "Is it scary?" And I was like, "There's like, I mean, it's kind of funny."
Like, what? Okay, all right.
But I mean, it was mostly just like we didn't want to want to like out-disturb like any of these current kind of home invasion films. We wanted to do something kind of different.
Yeah, and for me as like a director, I felt like I'd done like stuff that was like just like so super serious and always like filmed in kind of an avant-garde way. And with this film, I like wanted to take a totally different approach. And the experiment before was always like, how can we create like this weird movie or whatever, and try these like weird techniques and try to, turn it around, And with this film, like the experiment was literally like, can we make a movie like normal people, which meant that, I wasn't going to be shaking the cameras, or if you've seen Popsicle, I wasn't going to be flashing strobe lights into your face while somebody's drinking a lot of cough medicine. We wanted to actually do something where more than just filmmakers could enjoy the movie. It could be more of like a broader appeal. I mean, with that said, it's still like a really weird movie. I mean,
So, with casting, how did you find our heroine? A smart, sharp heroine. She's got a reason to be tough.
can I hear it from Shawnee's perspective? I mean, that'd be more interesting.
What's your version of that story?
That was the first time I just saw the film. So, because Adam and Simon just finished it like 2 days ago. So we weren't allowed to actually watch it up until now. They wanted us to experience it with you guys and have the live feed and the live audience. I don't know if it's because I was in it and so I know what's happening, but to me that was a comedy. That was straight up in your face laughter. I just laughed the whole way through it. I don't know, it's hard for me to comment on it from like an audience perspective because I know what's coming and know exactly what's happening, so at no time was I particularly scared in the sense of like knowing what's coming up, but then you guys, I know what was coming and then I still sat there and went, shit! The sound effects and all the cool stuff that like really get you, and like the way you got it together was just awesome, so thank you for having me a part of it.
We're just going to have a little discussion here between us, just don't mind us. You know, like we had an open casting call. A lot of the people actually in the film, like AJ Bowen and Joe Swanberg and Amy Simons, and even like Ty West are people that like I've worked with before, and you know a lot of them were in A Horrible Way to Die, and so a lot of the people Simon wrote the script with them in mind, but like in terms of like Sharni's character, we had absolutely no fucking idea, you know, who was going to play that part. So of course we just did, basically a casting call thing, and we saw a lot of people, and like every time it was like people were doing exactly what we didn't want them to do, which was like my biggest fear, which is like a bunch of girls and like Daisy Dukes like posing and trying to act tough, you know. And it was really important to me that we differentiate ourselves from, you know, like, because the biggest like pratfall in like these type of movies with like a strong heroine is that usually like from scene one, you know, the girl's like posing and acting tough, you know. And that was something that like we wanted to avoid from the beginning because, you know, it's just not very realistic, and ultimately it just doesn't make you believe that she can hold her own. And when we saw Sharni's audition, she just like had a subtlety to her that was like, you know, totally brilliant, and maybe it's the Australian accent, but she seemed tough automatically too.
No, it was the worst audition of my life, you guys. Like, I walked out of that audition and I went home. This is my roommate, by the way. We actually love each other. We live together. And I came home and I went up to her and I said, I blew it. I wanted that part so bad. And I walked in the room and I don't know what happened. I lost my mind and I just was terrible.
Meanwhile, we were like totally fucking blown away.
It was terrible.
And if she's Australian, she'll just seem tough.
How did you get, for those who might not know, Barbara, the star of Reanimator? How did they approach you? How did that happen? How did that magic happen?
Well, I was running on a treadmill in Tahoe, and I looked at my phone, and it had a message from my agent, and it said, well, somebody just offered you a part in a movie called You're Next. I said, what? Who? I'm sort of in retirement. And he's like, well, if you want to make a movie, they want to hire you. I said, well, to play what part? They said, to play the mom of this movie, and it's a home invasion movie, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, how old are my children? And my agent said, well, let me look it up on IMDb. AJ Bone is 34 years old. And I said, oh, so I'm to play the mother of a 34-year-old man? Anyway, I read the script on my iPhone, because that's all I had, and I loved it. I just thought it was brilliant and so well crafted. And so I said, yes, I'll look as old as possible just to play this part.
And we did. We had to really work hard
Yeah.
to make you look older because you're so beautiful.
Well, exactly.
You look younger than your sons, right? I mean, you look younger than your sons, right?
Exactly.
What can you tell us about the composer? Who did the music?
The music composition was basically like 4 different people. The 2 main guys were Colin and Justin Lee, and they're people I've worked with since Pop Skull, and they did a Horrible Way to Die score. And Kyle, like specifically, like the first actual piece of music he wrote was I guess you can call it the Sharni theme, the one where she's putting up the axe, and it's like, and like he sent that to me, and I was like, oh, this is way too fucking over the top. There's no way we can use this. And so like we went and put him in a different direction. And then, like, whenever I showed Keith and Jess the rough cut, they're like, I think I could tell that like they were liking the movie, but they had some reservations, and they were like, now the score, we like it, but it's like it doesn't let you have fun. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna put something in tomorrow, and I'll show you guys. And then they played that, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is working. And then, like, the rest of the music was a guy named Mads Hepberg. Is it Hepberg? Heltzberg. And he was somebody that was at our first TED screening, and we just had a couple places we needed to fill in. And the rest of it I did on my, basically mostly on my iPod, a lot of the electronic stuff, just to fill in the gaps, because like, there was like so much music we needed, we had so little time. I realized that we weren't going to be able to get everybody to pull it together, so I would just like throw together some stuff and, try to get the whole thing together. Unfortunately, I guess it turned out right.
Were you influenced by Home Alone in any way?
I mean, obviously the nail scene. I mean, who didn't like Home Alone, though? I mean, I remember watching that fucking movie when I was a kid a couple times in the theater and thinking it was like an orgasmic experience, It was like the best movie ever made. So, I mean, yeah, that kind of stuff does kind of show through in some weird way. Do you have anything to add to that, Sam?
Hollywood executives, we're willing to remake Home Alone.
Well, I mean, anytime the windows were breaking or somebody was jumping out a window, because like we had so little time to do the movie, it was always like, there's no way we're going to be able to do that. Actually, it was pretty much every special effects scene, but sometimes it was because, the special effect didn't work, and then we're like, it's more like a retrospect thing, like, oh, that didn't work, and we're going to have to keep shooting this over and over again throughout the entire shoot, But I think the main thing, I never believed that we were going to actually be able to have, it was a stunt double. Sorry to burst everyone's bubble, but it wasn't Sharni jumping out the window.
That's only because you wouldn't let me.
She did want to. She begged. She did. Yeah, she did everything else. But like those windows were so small. It was like our stunt choreographer and fight coordinator, Clayton Barber, he, you know, like he was really concerned. Like the first thing he did when he showed up at the set is he wanted to look at the windows, and he was just like, immediately just like, oh, well, let me see the upstairs. And we go up upstairs, and it's like even worse, you know. And so we went through a couple different things. We were trying to figure out where we were going to do it in the house, or were we going to fake it downstairs. And ultimately, he brought in this stunt girl who just didn't give a shit, and she just, you know, jumped through this little tiny window, and it just kind of came together.
3 other directors as actors in that.
Nice.
What's it like for you as a director? I assume these
Well, it's a lot of fun because when you're working with people like, you know, Swanberg, who played, you know, Drake, the brother with the arrow in his back, and, you know, you got like Ty West in there. It's one of those things where the whole time, like, whenever like shit's going down, and it, you know, because like, in a production like this, when you have a very small amount of time to pull off something where you want it to feel like you have a lot of shots, like the movie doesn't, it's not worried about the budget, you know, you're trying to just like push it through. Whenever you have like directors like acting for you, they like have a lot of empathy. So, you know, like when a special effects doesn't work, you know, like Ty would come up to me and he's just like, listen, I know some guys that can fix this shit up, you know. And but ultimately we would just go back and like reshoot it a couple of days later just as like as an insert. And you know, a lot of that was like patched together that way. But I mean, you know, it's really, it's not one of those things, like, in some ways, I would have imagined, like, a couple years ago, before working with other directors as actors, that it would be kind of intimidating, like they'd be judging me or having their own, you know, thoughts and ways of doing things. But Joe Swanberg, who I've worked with a lot, I've DP'd for him over the years and stuff, he does this a lot, and he just kind of opened that, you know, door to me, you know, in terms of, you know, making that work. And in a way, it just brings like a whole nother life to it, because he is approaching it from a directing standpoint and an acting standpoint, so he knows kind of like, you know, where the bullshit is, what works, what doesn't, blah, blah, blah.
And just my last question, what is your actual next project? What are you guys working on next?
Well, I mean, you know, I guess things right now are kind of secret, but I mean, if you watch the film, you can kind of see that there's a sort of transition, hopefully, into doing something more action-oriented, you know, and so I'll just leave it at that, you know.
The great thing is there's been a meeting of minds. We had dinner last night with the director and guys from The Raid. Who are right here, the actor and actress of The Raid, and I believe the directors of Inside and Limit. I don't know if they're still here or not, but thank you very much. Thank you all. And tomorrow night, of course, we have the return of the directors of Inside with Limit.